so grateful to have these gentlemen here. We had an amazing week this week, and each week we select someone from the field of miracles that occurred um, to represent that field, to share with you a little bit about what went on in a unique way for each of these gentlemen this week. And so we had such an amazing week together, gentlemen. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And I'd love to hear about your week, and to sort of start off with sort of what's different today than last Saturday. What's shifted for you? Um, Thomas, would you like to?
Sure, yeah. Um, I'll mention something that this gentleman taught us in the beginning of the week. He said that there's nothing broke, and it reminded me of a phrase I often come back to, just the opposite, that something's broke and has to be fixed. I think my miracle this week was realizing that there's nothing broke that needs to be fixed, that my history of being relinquished by my mother at birth, adopted into a family that was very good to me, but never felt I quite belonged, always made me feel that I was broke. And the revelation, or the gift that was given me this week, was that I was not, and that all of those decisions in early childhood were not running away so much as strategizing how to survive. And I think I learned to love myself for that rather than think I was broke. So that was a great gift to me.
What?
Through you.
Thank you. Thank you. Right? Presence of God working through both of us in such a beautiful way. Thank you. There's nothing broken. I have to remind myself too, because it's an old story.
Yeah,
It's an old
absolutely.
story. That's beautiful. Thank you. Brother Patrick.
And I'm building on what Tom said. It's a story that I have come to believe with the chronic illness that I had. And so it sort of legitimized the pain I was feeling. And now, after this week, I'm profoundly grateful for the life that I have. There is nothing wrong with me. And self-nurture, self-care, self-love is so vitally important in everything that we do. And this is what we learn here. Everything is built around how to take care of ourselves, and the teachings, the coaching that you offer, the food, the medicine, breath work, the yoga, everything is about that.
So beautiful. Thank you. So, we had a comment. Let's see. Hey, Susan. So as I was sharing with the gentleman before we started, like, I love to start with here's what we got, but now you got to find out about what both of these gentlemen shared is so amazing. So will you tell us a little bit about yourself? Let's start with you, Patrick.
I'm a father of 4 kids.
You were like, you questioned that, like 3, 4.
No, I was maybe more. I don't know. Well,
let's say 4.
They've grown out of the nest, all 4 at the same time, almost.
Wow.
In the last 18 months, and so when you dedicate your life to the family, to your role as a father, when that evolves under your very eyes, it shatters a lot of your identity, just like the medicine does. And the medicine provides the space for us to move into not a comfortable, but a space where we can look at ourselves in a more loving way. And so the last 5 years, I retired from my corporate job. My wife and I bought a farm. We're opening a business in the spring, summer. I have a new role in my community. It's just a lot of different ways that I'm contributing, and the medicine has given me a new perspective on how I can contribute more positively in my environment.
And what was your corporate background? What were you doing?
So I'm a lawyer with an MBA. I did restructuring, so I would go into corporations, private and public, and rejig everything so that things became more efficient. In the last 12 years, I was chief marketing officer for an insurance broker in Canada. Yeah, and all of my diplomas are completely useless on a farm. So that was very humbling. Learned from my neighbors. I went back to school, learned trades, 2 trades. And yeah, and as we moved to this new phase of our lives, my wife and I, keeping the good, but shedding the baggage that we accumulate through either trauma or misperceptions becomes critical. And, yeah.
And your life wasn't like, what brought you here? Your life wasn't falling apart, like.
It wasn't a falling apart, but I had chronic Lyme's disease, and that made me limit how I lived because I was in constant pain, and the pain was just getting to a point where I thought I was dying. There's a lot of people with chronic Lyme's disease that do end their lives.
Yeah.
Luckily for me, I was able to treat it. I was able to put it in dormancy. And when I came here last year, it was 1 year after my treatments. But the lingering effects were still there, especially on my psyche, also in my body, somatic, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the medicine really helped let go of all of that.
And release all that. So
Yeah.
So after, this is your second time.
Yep.
After the first time, you noticed a significant difference.
Oh my God, huge.
In just the recovery that you were experiencing
Absolutely.
from the Lyme's treatment.
Yeah, I became aware of things that I was unconscious of.
And like what?
The beliefs I held of myself, of the disease, of what it meant. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does. Like, but help me to make sure I understand. So, like, what it meant about you, what the disease meant about.
It's always limiting myself to what was doable. Never go beyond what I thought I could take on. Because I was limited. The disease, it's a thing I was carrying for 10 or 12 years. And so the last 10, 12 years of my life, although I accomplished a lot, inside of me, I always felt restrained. I always felt held back. Mm-hmm. And once I got the disease out, I was still holding myself back. It became an excuse.
Right.
It's the narrative that becomes reality because you repeat it so many times in your head that you become unconscious of it. And it just filters everywhere in your body.
I'm thinking of that. I'm sure we've all heard the story of or some version of it where a horse or an elephant is tied to a post and they have this area they can go around, and eventually you can take the string off and they won't go out of that area. Right?
Exactly.
Sort of this is the limit.
Exactly.
And so you're able to break through that.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow, man. And Thomas, tell me about what called you to Rythmia. Tell us about you. Tell us about your path, your life and what brought you here.
Oh my gosh, too old to go through all the years, but I think it was that inability to expand, as Patrick was saying, that to go beyond your limits. And I thought at the moment something had happened and I was kind of crazed about it, and I just said to myself, I've heard of ayahuasca, I think I'll go look for that. And I just went on the internet, and the first thing that came up was Rythmia. So I just signed up, and I came. So I retired about 5 years ago. I'm a priest, Catholic priest from the East Coast, and for many years, I was a priest for 45 years, and that changed my life, retirement. What do you do now? I'm still active in a way, but not as much as I was, of course. And it made me think about where I was going. And as you get older in years, you know, you're looking at last stages of life in a way. What are you going to do? How productive you can be? How fruitful? Um, and I thought I needed something to help me with that. And coming here did help me, but not in the way I expected. I did not expect what I found. This whole business about not being broken. I think it was Wednesday night. I think that's called the
Divine Feminine.
Divine Feminine, which really touched me in many ways. And I was able to even, I remember vocalizing while I was in the Maloka that I love myself and I love you, Tom, and that things have all happened for a good, you know, working together for the good, as they say.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So this being Lent and everything, it's terrible when I preach the line I have is something's broken and has to be fixed. And I'm completely gone the other way, 180 degrees on that now. There's a connection, you know, there's something that's bothering, that's moving within, that making me aware of that I have to, or that I'm invited to do something about it. And this was the invitation that came out of the internet, or maybe it was, you know, a mystical space
And
somewhere.
I think it's,
Soon.
they're one and the same.
Yeah.
I really love, you know, we have a lot of individuals that come here that are deeply religious, a lot of Mormons, a lot of Christians, a lot of Catholics that come, and some people worry about this being blasphemous or a contradiction in some way to their faith. And as I shared with you earlier, I had a mom who didn't see any contradiction. I remember being in high school and my mom said she was going to go to Peru to meditate with the violet light and communicate with the great masters. And I was like, my mom has lost it. What the hell? Now I realize mom was like so ahead of the curve. You know, she was really, you know,
Yeah.
but a lot of people feel that this might be a violation or a blasphemy of faith in some way. I'm really interested to hear your perception, seeing the indigenous rituals that are, you know, the indigenous prayers, and I'm sure you heard a lot of Catholic. They were invoking the archangels in a lot of their prayers. Did you? It was in Spanish, but I'm sure you picked up on some of the intersection of the colonial remnants
Of course.
of colonialism in the Americas, but imbued with indigenous traditions. I'd love your take on all of it.
Well, I did think a lot about that. So part of my background is that my diocese sent me to Korea to learn Korean years ago, and I worked with Korean community for many years. And I remember my first time in Korea, I was staying in this church, and traditional Catholic churches in Korea have a statue of the Blessed Mother, the Mother of Jesus, outside. And this old woman would come every day, and she'd pray in front of the statue, pray in front of the statue. And the pastor went out to her one morning and says, "How come you don't come in? You always pray at the statue, you never come into the church." She says, "I'm Buddhist." "You're Buddhist, why are you praying in front of the statue of the Blessed Mother?" She says, "I'm 70 years old. The Buddhist statue is up on top of the hill. I can't make it anymore. This will do just as well." You know? So that's kind of a metaphor, maybe, that the way I think about this. Enculturation, I mean, it has so many overlapping things that some people can focus on particular things and make an argument. But ultimately, in my point of view anyway, the divine presence is much bigger than any of it, whether it's bigger than the church, it's bigger than this, it's bigger than everything. And it finds its way through those things to speak to us, I think. That's my point of view.
I so agree. I'm so grateful for your point of view. You know, I was sharing with you also earlier that I had, you know, I grew up Catholic, and I had, you know, went to Catholic grade school and high school, and was an altar boy and did the whole thing. My you know, Holy Week was a big week in our family. You know, very involved, and And I had such a lovely experience in my youth with our church. Our parish priest was a childhood friend of my father's, and I found uh, as we were cleaning out my mom's bookcase, I found a book that Father Padilla had written, and as I read it, later in life, it was like so mystical. So I just love to share, because there's a lot of people see the Catholic Church as a monolithic or a historical, but there's a lot of beautiful individuals, and I'm so grateful that you're able to express another aspect, representation of your faith and how you walk. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
So tell us a little bit, anyone, either of you gentlemen, about the week. What did you love about it? What was challenging? Anything from the accommodations to the people, to the food, to the classes, to help people get another sense of your experience.
You want me to go?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, the place is beautiful. It's like, as they say, a blue zone, one of the great places in the earth, really. And the accommodations, wonderful. So, but the main point, I think the main thing that I came for was the ceremonies. And even though I knew something about it, I was not really ready for it all. So, I mean, should speak about anything about it?
Sure.
Yeah. So, I can't remember in my life the last time I threw up. It must have been before I was a teenager. I don't remember at all. So this was a big, big obstacle for me, thinking that this might happen. And it was, but when it happens, it happens. And of course, it's a purge. It's a release of not only a physical matter, but it's a release, I think, of emotional bondage, spiritual trapping. And I could feel that, and the other part of it is to be, I think it brings you back more to nature. I mean, that's what animals do, and humans are animals as well, and we partake of that whole aspect of nature that, at least for me, I've grown up or never been that much a part of, too much of a concrete jungle type of thing rather than the jungle. And so that was a great revelation and a release. And then the other thing I'd say is that the medicine brought me to that awareness that again, it's not my failing or failings or kind of imperfections that are important, but rather that I see myself as first a child. I saw myself as like a life, what do they call it?
Life review.
Life review type of thing that brought me to really appreciate the things that I went through, and probably most important, the forgiveness that I gave myself, and, which was a great gift. Beautiful.
Beautiful. Thank you. Brother Patrick, what would you like to share your experience of the week, any aspect of
Two experiences completely different. First time I came here last year, almost so a lot of people out there maybe have reservations about purging. I almost didn't purge, but I was yawning and yawning, and it is a type of purge. That's what I've learned. And I was told, among other things, that it was like a spiritual purge. I was purging emotions that I had bottled up, taken from other people throughout my life. And so it was on the sort of the outer layer, provided me with a profound, it's all good.
We're still live. Okay.
Okay.
That was interesting.
Yeah.
All right. provided you with
provided me with a profound appreciation for what is life, and I experienced it. I really felt it. So that was my last ceremony at the sunrise.
Mm.
And so when I left here, I was on cloud nine. Now, much deeper. Again, going into the somatic, everything like internally. So purging was very evident. But the release, freedom, it provided, the added flow. I move now with almost no pain.
wow.
No, it's so you know you can read religious texts, which I've done, read the Bible and Tao Te Ching and the Upanishad, and you can intellectualize a lot of different things, but you have to experience them. And this place offers the container in everything it does. It offers the security so that you can trust the process and that you can fully abandon. And that's a scary part.
To surrender.
The surrender thing, you don't realize how much you're holding back until you are letting go. In the ceremonies, I mean, there are helpers that are there to support you, to make you feel comfortable. They ask you if you need anything. The shamans are there to provide blessings. Everything is built around sacredness of everything.
You said something about it, if I could.
Please.
Yeah.
So intellectualizing, that's what I do a lot. And I think as a professionally religious person, that I spend most of my ministry doing that. I intellectualize, not that that's essentially wrong, but the problem is that, you know, like some people say there are two sources for the word religion, right? Religio, which is more like an intellectual or a rule-based idea of religion, versus religare, the bringing together of what's been separated.
Mm.
And for me, that's been the challenge the past few years, to go, as we mentioned many times during the week, to go from the head to the heart, to embody that experience rather than just think about it. And you know, that's part of it too for me. But,
So
Yeah.
so true.
yeah.
So true. The felt experience, and I love the. Um, I this teaching that I received years ago was that God doesn't hear us, God feels us. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
that it's
Yeah.
a feeling, vibrating, living field,
Yeah.
right? The living presence, you know,
Yeah.
that is alive and it's felt, and this just a beautiful analytical machine up here, but left to its own device, leaves us to.
Yeah.
But when we're connected here to this beautiful divine gift, so yes, the feeling of it, and this is all we've created. Oh, I'm not supposed to be talking so much. I'm going to stop. I've talked enough this week. This is supposed to be for you guys. All right, so.
But you're so interesting.
Well, I love to hear myself talk.
Okay.
If you haven't noticed,
You can't help it.
okay, I know, right? I'm sure, you know, we all have to take off the mantle. You're taking off the mantle of father. Not that you're taking off the mantle, but you just talked about making this transition. My kids have left, and now I have to put on a new. You know, it's a transition. It's hard to take off the mantle of spiritual guide, priest, leader, and it's hard for me to take off the mantle. I have to remember, and
Well, as you said today, I mean, the whole business, wounded healer business, I always thought was a great title, but it's not so good. You know, happy healer, as they say, rather
Yeah.
than wounded healer. When you give up your own needs, ultimately you're not meeting others. So,
yes, and well, gentlemen, it has been an honor. Is there anything else you'd like to say about Rythmia, about your experience, about something to the folks out there? And if not, it's okay. But I just Favorite moment from the week? How about that?
Favorite moment.
A chance encounter, a moment of ecstatic oneness.
Last night, the shaman and the group that was there and the healing that they provided with the song and the rituals and the blessings, it was the most profound act of love that I've witnessed in my life. And I experienced it as well. And yeah, it's just, I'll be back.
That was beautiful. So you're talking about the Thursday night healing
Yes.
circle.
It builds, every ceremony builds on the previous one, although they're all very different. The experience are different, but by the end, the journey is life altering.
Yes.
There's no other way to say it.
So beautiful, man. Thank you. Thank you.
For me, I mean, all of those things, but a very little, seemingly little thing happened. One of the other guests, Ali, was next to me. We were next to each other quite a bit. And was it the last ceremony or the one before, I forget. He just reached over and grabbed my hand like this. But that meant so much to me. It's just a
Yeah.
simple little thing, but it was just a connection. It's lovely.
It's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you all for joining us. We hope to see you at Rythmia. Come back and see us, or come see us. And peace and richest blessings. And we'll see you next week. Thank you.
Thank you.
you.
Thanks.
Wonderful.
Thanks.
Let me turn this off here.